If you're feeling blue after going through some stressful times, you just may benefit from bringing more blue into your life. Being in, on, and around the water can do a world of good. From decreasing anxiety and increasing good feelings, a sense of calm and awe. The sights, sounds, and smells of the ocean and other blue spaces may be just what the doctor orders to lift a blue mood. That's all up next on Still Time for Joy, where we share practical advice for weathering life's storms and inspiring stories of resilience. Hello, I'm Sandra Levine, host of Still Time for Joy. My guest today is Captain Lou Van Bergen, who has seen firsthand the benefits of taking people out on the ocean and bay in New Jersey for 34 years. Welcome to the show, Lou.
Thanks for having me, Sandra.
I was fortunate enough to go out on a sunset cruise with you on the Miss Barnegat Light. What a fantastic experience. So if you can watch this as a video podcast, you'll see a lot of those images. You know, I grew up at the Jersey Shore and I spent lots of time sailing and swimming and being by the ocean. I love being by the water. What is it about being on the water that you think draws people to it?
I think it's just the ability to disconnect from everyday life and to be able to kind of have just even if it's a couple fleeting moments, maybe a couple hours to basically kind of forget about everything that's on land, maybe problems that you have, stuff like that, and experience something that you don't get to see every single day.
How did you start your career working on the water?
So as a young kid, I would basically cut lawns and end up giving all that money to one of the party boats down the Jersey Shore because I love to fish. And that parlayed sooner or later. My parents relented and said that I could start to live my dream and work on a boat. And I started on the Miss Barnegat Light in 1991.
That's a long time ago. And what does a deckhand do for people who don't know? It's not the most glamorous job.
It depends. You do a lot of the dirty work and you do a lot of the things that no one sees. Prepping the boat for the day, getting the bait ready, getting rods ready. And then all the helping the people while you're out there. You know, it's a service job. So you got to like being able to talk to people, being able to help kids, have a lot of patience, and at the same time not be afraid of hard work.
And what was your feeling? What do you think initially drew you to? Was it the fishing that you loved so much, or was it being on the water, or a combination?
I think it was probably a combination of the two. When I first started, I loved the idea that I get paid to go fish every day. And you don't catch the fish, but you help the people catch the fish, and that was still an allure to mine. Like I remember as a kid, basically using my parents' typewriter. How long ago it was, and I used the typewriter to create ads for boats, fictitious boats that I was going to own one day, fleets of boats, party boats that I would own one day, and drawing pictures of boats when I was a young kid. And so I don't know. It just never occurred to me that wouldn't be the path that I would take. But it fulfilled the dream, I guess, when I finally started to do it.
And you actually ended up going to college and studying marine biology. Tell me about that choice.
So in my high school years, it was always told, you do the test online, or now it's online. And back then you did it on paper and they would tell you what your career choice was to be. And it always came back to be something along the lines of agriculture or fisheries or forestry. And, I always wanted to be outside. I said I would never work behind a desk and have a tie on every single day. So the idea of marine biology really kind of, was always there. Why not? Again, get paid, make a living on the water. So I did a little bit of, internships and things like that along the way. And when I got out of school, it was not they were not hiring marine biologists by the dozen. So I ended up, doing some different things and getting into teaching. But it was an easy choice. Why not be on the water every single day? That was a great idea.
And in the year 2000, you got your captain's license. Tell me about the path to getting your captain's license and how that felt to actually fulfill a childhood dream.
Getting the license was it's an arduous task. Most people think it's like your boater's license that the state of New Jersey gives out, but with a Coast Guard license to be running a vessel for hire and carry over 6 people, it's an arduous task. It's a 4-part test. You have to go take it at one of the regional exam centers. So I went to New York City, which is not my favorite place to go. In Battery Park at 6 a.m. and was there until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, taking the 4 different parts. And at the end, they tell you, "Oh, you passed." You go downstairs to records, and they'll give you your license. And it was, you couldn't pry the smile off my face at the end of that day. So happy about what I was able to accomplish.
And so initially you ran your own charter and now you are a captain on the Miss Barnegat Light. Tell me a little bit about running your own charter and about your work today.
So my own charter, that was kind of the idea that there were some voids in the industry at the time. Rather than take 84 people out, take 4 people out, and it was very fulfilling. Take a lot of young families. That was what I pretty much dealt with all the time. I love teaching little kids about the marine environment, and it wasn't always just a fishing trip. It would be, a fishing trip, and then, oh, check out that bird, check out this. We'd catch a different fish, and you'd be able to teach them about the fish, and you could see, that wonder in their eyes, about the world that they had never maybe experienced before. And then it basically came down to a financial decision as to, running a business is anyone who runs their own business knows there's lots of costs, there's lots of variables, and I enjoyed it immensely. But at the same time, during the summer months when I'm not teaching, I needed a paycheck that was pretty consistent. So I came back. They had basically needed a captain, so I came back to the Miss Barnegat Light, and they basically trusted me enough and gave me a shot, and I've never looked back.
Tell me about what you see in people when you get them out on the water. Some of them may have never been out in the ocean before. What do you see in both adults and in children? What kind of changes do you see?
So I see basically almost all their worries disappear. They show up at the boat, and we greet them at the gangplank as they get on the boat and purchase their ticket. And sometimes there's a lot of stress. Even though they're on vacation or they're coming over for the day, whatever it might be, to Long Beach Island, there's always stress. There's a family that comes up with 4 kids, and one kid's crying and the other kid just woke up, and one kid's asking for food or snacks already. And they get on the boat, and then that basically kind of stops. Once we leave, it's like you untie the lines, and all that stuff is left behind. The kids, I get a ton of kids that this is the first time they've ever been on a boat before. This is their first boat ride. And you try to make it as enjoyable as possible. I let the kids come up, and they get to steer the boat when we're out in the ocean, and they just have this permanent smile on their face where they're just having so much fun. The adults, it's an escape for a short period of time. They get to basically escape the hustle and bustle of the real world. And whether there's a sunset, and I mean, some of the sunsets we see are fantastic, and you see 100 people or more just sitting at the rail watching the sunset together, and it's just something special. Like, it's not just the sights, it's the smells, it's the sounds, it's you try to just kind of make everybody forget about it, and I think we do that for about an hour and a half, and then unfortunately we got to come back and tie the boat back up, and they get off the boat and go on with their merry lives. And next night we get to do it with a whole bunch of other people again. So it's a good deal.
But even that short amount of time to unplug from technology, to look out at the vastness of the ocean, can just do wonders for reducing your stress levels and for calming you. In the Victorian era, doctors used to prescribe sea air for curing just about everything, and people still say, who live at the shore, I need my dose of vitamin C, SEA. So somehow we intuitively all know that being by the ocean, by the water, can be really good for us. So when you're out on the boat, what kind of wildlife do you see out in the ocean?
So we get a chance to see a myriad of life, and every trip is different. We always preface when we do the sunset cruise, there's a possibility we'll see some dolphins. We see them, I would say, over 50% of the time, but we don't know where they go. We don't know what they do, and they don't tell us their schedule. So we're kind of at the mercy of crossing paths with them. And when we do see them, sometimes they are as social as, a bunch of teenagers. And then other times they're going to be the grumpy old person that's going to go sit off in the corner of the room and they don't want anything to do with anybody else. But that's a pretty common occurrence. What we've seen over the last 3 or 4 days is a good amount of humpback whales. So we now have schools of bunker that have kind of come in towards the beach, and I think it was Friday we did a marine mammal watch, our dolphin trip, and we saw a handful of dolphins, but we got a chance to see 5 different humpback whales feeding and breaching and spouting, and literally within 2 miles of the inlet. But it's not common to see that. But when people see this, and I tell them the same thing, it never gets old. I've seen whales hundreds of times. Every single time I see them, I'm in awe. And it's the same thing with the dolphins too. There's just some kind of connection between the three species that you can't describe and you can't put into words.
Now, in addition to the sunset cruises, you also take people out on marine biology cruises, where I imagine you spend a lot of time in the bay. What are the marine biology tours like? What kind of wildlife do you see? And what are you hoping people take away from these tours? I'm sure as a teacher, you are telling them a lot about what they're seeing and educating them.
So the tours kind of originated about, I think it's 5 or 6 years ago. I came up with the idea of answering the questions that we would get on almost every single trip, whether it was a fishing trip or the sunset cruise or anything else that we did. The customers are very inquisitive, and especially the little kids, they have that why questioning all the time. They don't lose it for a while, but we use that, and then the different types of subjects that I teach during the school year, and kind of put together a little 2-hour marine biology tour. So the organisms we see, we start right away. We talk about the importance of the grass in the salt marsh, and how there's distinct differences between that and all the pilings and the bulkheads and whatnot that we have with development. We'll take a look at just an absolute plethora of birds, from the osprey nest that we have right near the dock all the way out to the end of the inlet, and then all the birds that we see throughout the entire bay, throughout the entire trip. Critter-wise, we'll pull a crab trap and a couple of crab traps, and we get a little bit of everything in there. Since we're closer to the ocean, we see a lot more spider crabs than blue crabs. And then we'll also get rock crabs in there, as well as sometimes green crabs, which is an invasive species that's here on the East Coast. Sometimes we'll get fish in there as well. I tell them right from the start, I said, this is science. I said, you don't know what you're going to get. I said, so, sometimes we draw a blank, and, somebody might have messed with our trap or something like that. And then other times we see tons of diversity. We had moon snails and hermit crabs the last trip, along with all the other crabs. So it's quite interesting. Then we go out into the ocean for a short period of time, about 15 minutes or so, and we pull a plankton net that's no bigger than 8 inches in diameter, but a very, very fine mesh net. And we basically pull that and put whatever we get onto a microscope that we project onto a big screen TV in the cabin. And it's everything from regular zooplankton, which usually this time of year is teeming, and then we get into things like lobsters, crabs, and also fish that are all larval. So they're all ones that you would not see with the naked eye, but you just put it underneath the microscope, and all of a sudden everybody's like, that's what we're swimming with? And I'm like, yeah, that's all stuff that's there. I said that we don't recognize, that we don't even see. We just see it as some particles in the water, but that's life at the start.
So, especially for children who may have never seen a spider crab before, they're pretty interesting looking. What kind of reactions do you get?
So it ranges from scared to death that this critter's going to basically come and get them, and we let kids hold, we put them in their hands and stuff like that. And then you can see the fear go away, and they're just like, they just go crazy for all that stuff. They love the living creatures, and that's what we're trying to do. We're going to try to protect the environment in which we live. I tell them all the time, I said, unfortunately, our generations have kind of made the issues that we have today in the environment, and their generation is going to have to solve all those problems.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you that as somebody who has been out on the water a lot for more than 30 years. Our oceans, our rivers, our bays, our lakes, all waterways have undergone changes. In some ways, we've done a pretty good job of cleaning things up, and in other ways, some waterways have become more polluted with plastics and all kinds of things. But in general, from going out all the time off the Jersey Shore, are you seeing an abundance of wildlife? Are you seeing fish stocks being smaller? What has been your experience?
So I would say in the last 10 years, I would say we've seen an increase in marine mammals, the dolphins and whales coming through the area. And then maybe they don't stay in the area all the time, but we see their numbers increasing. Fish-wise, I mean, some species of fish, again, who knows what it is? Could it be, a change in migration, change in climate with the temperatures? There's a whole slew of different variables that go into that, but we've definitely seen populations of bluefish change. Their numbers have decreased in our area. They migrate further north now. Striped bass numbers kind of fluctuate a little bit, but we've seen their numbers come up and seen great fishing. Closer to the beach, fluke, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's slower. Times are changing, is that what it comes down to? And that, the ocean's never stagnant. It's always in flux. So whether it be a change in, oxygen levels, I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't look at too closely. And it's a thing that we consider, if you don't have a lot of oxygen in as a fish, you're going to move and go somewhere else. And we have so much development in Ocean County. I thought when I moved here in 2000, we had a house built in Ocean County, and thought I'd be the only person that would basically commute to northern New Jersey to go to my job as a teacher. And lo and behold, I get on the Parkway at 5:15, and I'm on there with all the other cars, the little ants, if you will, with the red lights going north and then coming back south in the afternoon. And it's amazing the changes that have occurred here in the last 40 years, going from the quiet little sleepy county to a bustling suburban area, and that has impacts on the Barnegat Bay, and then obviously in the ocean too. So it's a big change.
And of course, a lot of those people are drawn here because of the water. It's a huge draw, whether it is the ocean, the rivers, the bays, the lakes, the streams. Many people love to be around the water, I should say. So how important, as we wrap up, Lou, is being near in the water to you? Is it just a part of your essence?
That's probably the best way to put it. My wife and I, we have talks about where do we want to go when we retire from teaching, and we're both teachers, and where do we want to end up? And every conversation is always someplace around water. The typical, let's blend the winters in Florida. We love Maine. Then it becomes, we want it on a lake or on a river or something like that. Just simply because I don't think I couldn't survive mentally if I didn't have that connection, on a daily basis kind of thing. I mean, in the wintertime, it's odd because every once in a while I'll just be like, you know what, I'm done early. I'm going to go walk up to dunes and go up to the beach. And that's kind of the key. I said, I just have to go up there and sit there. If it's not too bad of a day or a nice day, go up there and walk. My wife and my daughter and I will go on a nice day in the winter and, walk Island Beach State Park, or go to the boardwalk and walk the boardwalk, and just, get a little bit of that vitamin C, like you said before. It's necessary.
Absolutely. The locals here in Ocean County go to the beach all year round. There is no such thing as the season is over. It goes all year round for us.
That, we know the best time of the year is local summer after everybody's gone. So we know that.
Exactly. And for our listeners who don't live near the ocean, it's okay. You can get to a river, you can get to a lake, and if you can't get to either of those, even having a water fountain in your home, in your office, has shown to have positive benefits on your mood. And even just looking at a photograph of nature and of water can have a calming effect. So, Lou, I want to thank you so much for teaching children especially about the water, about the ocean, about the marine life, because there are hope for the future in protecting the earth and the waterways. And I especially want to thank you for taking me out on the boat with you, the Miss Barnegat Light. It was wonderful. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Sandra. It was our pleasure to have you on the boat tonight. And, you're welcome anytime, and everybody's welcome to come and experience the same type of euphoria that you can get from coming out on the water.
If you found today's show helpful, please share the information with someone who needs it. and follow Still Time for Joy for more practical tips on weathering life's storms, as well as inspiring stories of people who have turned their pain into purpose. Please consider supporting the work that goes into producing the show on Patreon. Follow Sandra Levine Productions on Facebook and YouTube, and learn more at sandralevine.com.